Hey, this is the 5-Minute Quickie, and it's a heads up to what's going to follow on in this 5-minute podcast. To get you to muse, but to muse on something which is, I thought, so different. Because people talk about the comfort zone. I reframe that into the familiar zone. And then somebody else just let this little phrase go. And it inspired me to think and think deeply. And it's inspired others too. So if that's made you curious, and it's only 5 minutes, have a listen after this. Hey, welcome to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast with me, Paul Clough. And this is an FMQ, a 5-minute quickie podcast, which never lasts 5 minutes. It always goes a little bit longer. But it's a chance for you and I just to muse, to think of a subject, to talk about it for a few minutes, and then spend time thinking, seeing how it would change our life if we maybe developed it a little deeper. And maybe sometimes these 5-minute quickies will go into a longer podcast where we can dive deeper and produce processes, hypnosis processes, NLP processes. Don't worry about the names. They're just processes for making our life and your life absolutely better. Getting rid of anxiety, fear, all those other hang-ups and issues that we have, and have the life we deserve and make dreams come into reality quicker, bigger, better than you could ever dream of. But they're the longer podcasts, and this is a 5-minute quickie where we break down the complicated into simple, because in simplicity there's genius, and that's what we do here. So if you want to just think for a little while, see what happens, see what resonates inside you, and when it does, you go change the world.
This is Personal Development Unplugged with Paul Clough.
In simplicity, there is genius.
In simplicity, there is genius.
Hey, my friend, a 5-minute quickie to, again, just to think. Thinking in areas of your life where you might be this thing. And what is this thing? Well, this thing is, it was a phrase I was blessed. I say I'm blessed to have heard. It was a bit of a throwaway, but it made so much sense. And I can't for the life of me think who said it. And if you've heard it with somebody, please let me know, so I'd love to give them the credit that they deserve for sharing it with me. It's on a podcast somewhere. I think it was a Joe Rogan podcast, but I can't remember. But we've heard of the familiar zone, haven't we? No, we haven't. Because normally people call it the comfort zone. I'm in my comfort zone. No, that means you're familiar. It's familiar with where you are. This is the zone where you are familiar with your feelings. Because if you've got raging depression, sadness and things like that, and you've been with it for a long time, it's your familiar zone. You're familiar to this thing. And we need to get out of things like that. But here's the thing. This is what I want you to think about, because this phrase I heard and the explanation about it was absolutely awesome. And I shared this little throwaway piece to a group I was doing a Q&A for. I do a Q&A for my son Joseph Clough, who has a mastermind group. You can all look that up if you like, for people to really let go of issues and their core issue and make a tremendous change in their life and be supported all the way through it. And twice a month I give this Q&A webinar, and I happen to say this phrase and explain it just a little bit. And one or two who were on that call actually emailed me and said, and went through all the things I've been thinking about, because it triggered off something, maybe just tipped that domino. So what is that phrase? Because it's not the comfort zone. It's not the familiar zone. It's being, listen for this, numbingly comfortable. Numbingly comfortable. Say it again. Numbingly comfortable. Because this guy was saying, if things are so bad in your life, it gets to a point where most people, can't generalize, but most people say, can't do it anymore. I've got to do something. And that pain of where you are spurs you to do something, and you set off. So he was saying, well, that's quite a good thing. I sort of agree, because I know pain will be our motivator occasionally, but I think we're moving away from pain, and yeah, we've got to move away from pain, but we have to ultimately move towards comfort and pleasure. So, but he was right when he said we move away from pain. And when the pain's hard enough and deep enough and hurtful enough, we move. So it's a motivator of some kind. And he said also, if we're doing really well, we'll just keep doing what we're doing because we're happy. And you can call that, they're all familiar zones, familiarly bad, familiar good, but I'm doing this, I know where I'm coming from, and I'm going to do more of it because it's giving me pleasure. So we've got pleasure moving towards even more pleasure. But numbingly comfortable is where you're just there. It doesn't move you, doesn't move the needle, doesn't tip the domino. We're stuck in this like quicksand, I guess, treading water. Not moving anywhere, just keeping our head up, if that. Because sometimes we don't even notice that we're treading water, or we're in that quicksand and we're up to our ankles and we're slowly going to our knees and then to our waist. And I was talking about this, I just said, well, maybe we look at our lives, because I did too and I'm still looking at it. Look for places in our lives where we're numbingly comfortable, because they're the ones where we won't move from. Because we haven't got the pain to move away from. We haven't got the pleasure to carry on going towards. We're just numb. Numb, which is no feelings, and no feelings give you zero. It's like balance. Oh, I'm looking for balance. Yeah, balance has no feelings whatsoever because it's just balanced. But I just wondered if you would just think about that for a little while. Maybe just when you're having your cup of coffee, your G&T, your glass of wine, your beer, your glass of water. Maybe just think around areas of your life. Not the painful ones, because we always work with those. Not the pleasurable ones, because you're doing that, and everything about these podcasts is about both of those. But then I thought, well, this numbingly comfortable. Let's look for areas in our life where we're just stagnant. We're numb. And if only you can just highlight them, maybe just write them down or just put them in a note on your phone to work on them sometime. Because this will be a longer podcast. I know it will be. Not this one. This is a 5-minute quickie to get you to muse, but we will dive deeply into areas of our life where we're numbingly comfortable because it's so bloody numb. And sometimes we just don't notice it because we're numbed. We've been numbed out. Because I want to help you with that pain and moving away from pain to pleasure. And I want to help you when you're moving towards pleasure to get even more pleasure. But I really want to help you to move when we're numbingly comfortable. Have a little think. Hope that inspires you just to muse and notice areas of your life where we're dormant. And there's so much potential there. Have a think. Let me know if you would. feedback@personaldevelopmentunplug.com. Just let me know if there's any areas of your life where you're numbingly comfortable so we can use those as maybe examples in this longer podcast, which will follow sometime. Keep your ears and eyes open for it. And we'll have a process in there or two as well. Okay? So it's such a benefit to everyone. So if you email me, Cluffy, that's my name, Paul, but it's feedback@personaldevelopmentunplug.com. Having said that, time to muse and fly.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.